Hello and good evening. This is Look Behind You, the podcast where we talk about the paranormal, the supernatural, and everything in between. I am Sir Boom, your host, and I am joined by Ramen Cat.
Hello.
Your other host, and I'm also joined by Wolf.
Hello.
And today we are joined by a special guest, the co-host of Baka-Talk and a overall just meme lord of the internet, Pyrolis.
You
Hello,
told me
I am
this
back.
was Bigfoot.
He is hairy, but he's not that
You
hairy.
told me it was Bigfoot.
I wear size 13s.
Okay, he's Bigfoot.
That's the same size shoe I wear.
You are Bigfoot.
Huh.
You're
What
not allowed to
size do
steal my
you
boots.
wear, Ramen Cat?
11 and a half.
I think that's about what I'm at. I don't know. Do my feet look big?
They look wide.
See, the bad part was when
I
I,
do
was
have
little,
wide
my
feet.
shoes
You do.
stopped at 11 and a half at like 10.
Oh, wow.
Anyways, how you doing, Pyrolis?
I'm doing decent.
Yeah.
I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
I got a pickle today.
Nice.
Oh, those pickles were good.
They were good.
You also got pickled. didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wolf finally got his pickle.
I forgot what's in the fridge.
What?
Pickles.
Apple cider.
Nice.
I was saying the Dr. Pepper, but yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, why did you get a large drink at Arby's if you had a bunch of Dr. Pepper in the fridge?
Because I didn't plan on having a large drink from the Arby's.
I see.
I conned them into it.
He did.
Okay. Well, anyways, on today's show, we are talking about I don't know, I guess it's something out of the ordinary for us, isn't it?
That's where we're supposed to be, is out of the
That's
ordinary.
true. We are talking about John Titor,
A scientific thing.
a scientific phenomenon, a time traveler that came from the year 2036 and foretold great disaster for, well, the world. And some of his things might be coming true, some of his things might not be coming true.
I'm kind of feeling like it's all just conglomerated into these last 2 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll be talking about his story, we'll be talking about multi-world string theory, as well as we'll just be talking about just the paranormal life and just kind of the facts about time travel. So yeah, should be pretty interesting.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, so Pyrolis,
He's the man that
as
knows the stuff.
as our local
Time traveler.
time travel.
I forgot I wrote that.
Yeah, you wrote this a year ago, almost to the day.
So,
Yep.
I mean, should we let the audience know what we're looking at?
We're looking at a script from Baka-Talk. I believe it was
We're
what,
looking at
episode 3?
Pyrolis' manifesto.
No.
that's not printed out yet.
No, it's not.
But I believe this was a paper that you did originally.
This was
for...
a paper I did. Yeah, it originated for episode 2, technically episode 3 of Baka-Talk.
It
It
says
did-
episode 15 up there.
Yeah.
Does it?
for a show called Steinsgate
Yes.
that was inspired actually
Oh,
by
it's episode 15.
John Titor, wasn't it?
Kind of.
Yep.
I mean,
So
I've heard that there's direct references, like
Yeah, he's
There's
in the
a
show.
lot. Yeah.
he's not in the show.
Yeah.
She is in the show.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forget about
Spoiler alert.
It's a 10-year-old anime. If they haven't seen it now, then they can go heck off.
I don't know
Boom
if our
didn't see it until
audience
what,
even
2 years
watches
ago?
anime.
He can no longer heck off.
that. What?
Anyways, the anime was loosely based off the paper, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Or-
so the
Kinda
anime
loosely.
had
Events.
it was basically took like John Titor and stuff like that and put it in what they were doing.
Oh, okay.
So they like used the science behind the whole thing, which people are finding out may or may not be based on actual evidence.
Cool.
It's a good theory for time travel, at least.
All right. So, yeah. So this is your whole paper is about basically the story of John Titor. So where does it begin?
Well, in my original paper, it began in 2000. Upon further research, it actually possibly began in 1998.
Really?
July 29th of 1998, actually.
Wow.
So, Art Bell, who was a host of a late-night paranormal-themed radio show called Coast to Coast AM.
Yes,
We've
we are
talked
quite
about
familiar
them.
about
Yeah.
Are you? Oh,
Huge fan of Coast to Coast.
well, all right then. So I don't really need to explain too much.
that. No.
But anyway, during one of his open timeline segments, a letter came through the fax. The letter read, "Dear Art, I had the fax when I heard other time travelers calling in from any time past the year 2500 AD. Please let me explain. Time travel was invented in 2034. Offshoots of certain successful fusion to reactor research allowed scientists at CERN
Yep.
to produce the world's first contained singularity engine. The basic design involves rotating singularities, and a singularity is a black hole, just so you know. Well, the center of a black hole,
Yes.
in specific. Just letting people who don't know what a singularity is real quick. The basic design involves rotating singularities inside a magnetic field. By altering the speed and direction of rotation, you can travel both forward and backward in time. Time itself can be understood in terms of connected lines. When you go back in time, you travel on your original timeline. When you turn the singularity engine off, a new timeline is created due to the fact that you and your time machine are now there. Some interesting outcomes of this are: 1. You meet yourself. I have done it often, even taken a younger version of myself along for a few rides before returning myself back to the new timeline, and going back to mine.
So that throws the Hollywood paradox thing right out the window.
Personally, I've always thought the paradox thing was bullcrap because that always involved you just going back in time on your own timeline and never involved the multiple timeline thing.
Yeah, it's
Right.
all different interpretations of time
Yeah.
travel. Each show, other than most recently, have their own interpretation on how their time travel works.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of time travel also implies or introduces the butterfly effect as well,
Right.
which
where-
is
Yeah.
where the meeting your actually the original theory was like killing your own grandfather.
Yeah,
The
that was a
butterfly,
paradox.
the butterfly effect would create a paradox where you would never be born.
Right.
Yeah.
Where this is just, this is a different path where time is going
Right,
to
which is why John Titor's story involves the multi-world line theory, the
Right.
string theory of time
Yeah.
travel.
Which I personally think is the more accurate version of time travel.
I think so. It makes the most sense.
It does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the most realistic.
But anyways,
Anyways, 2, you can alter history in the new universe that you have just created. Most of the time, changes are subtle. Sometimes I'll notice car models that don't exist or books that come out late. Unfortunately, it was also discovered that anyone going forward in time from my year 2036 hit a brick wall in the year 2564. Please pray that we discover the reason why there is no apparent future after 2564. So that was the first fax that was sent to the
Coast to coast.
Coast to Coast AM radio show.
and was it signed by anybody?
No, it was not signed. People assume it was John Titor because of the year 2034,
Okay,
in which John Titor says he originally came from.
correct. Okay.
So then, at a later time, he sent an immediate, well, not a later time, so apparently he sent an immediate follow-up, which Bell also read on air.
Right.
The follow-up said, "Dear Mr. Bell, I am glad you're back. I faxed this information to you the day before you left the air. I wanted to make sure it wasn't lost in the shuffle, so I am sending a gift. As I said, then I am a time traveler. I have been on this world line since April of this year, and I plan to leave soon. Typically, time travelers do not purposefully affect the world lines they visit. However, this mission is unusually long, and I have grown attached to some of the people I have met here." The issue with this one is that it kind of differs from what happens later on in John Titor, because
Right.
he says that he's there because he want to visit his family, and he's
Yes,
been
yeah.
there since, I believe, September or November, one of the two.
I think it was like around September, if the message boards are true. Stopped over in 2000 for personal reasons to collect pictures lost in the Civil War.
Yeah, he says he
Um,
came back in 2000s, not in,
Correct,
1998. So I'm a little iffy on whether this is a connection to him, or if this all actually, let's say theoretically this is all real, if this was just a different time traveler.
right.
I mean, technically, couldn't you on the world line theory have basically just two different John Titors that just showed up at different times?
You could have, well, it's kind of iffy because they'd have to be going back in their own world line. The way he described it, if I went back in time right now, I'd be going back in my own world line.
Right.
So then
And
someone,
then it would start a new line at that point when you showed up.
basically, what would have to happen is, let's say 10 years ago, time travel was invented. Well, I'd have to go to, let's say 20 years later, 40-year-old me and 30-year-old me go back in time to the same point.
Mhm.
There's a possibility of us meeting, as far as I'm getting this right.
Yes.
Is that correct?
I see the little computer
No.
lights going on.
No?
And,
No,
website.
because the act of you going back into time actually, when you land, creates a new universe, a new world line. So you cannot, it's very hard for you to go back to the same exact line. That's why later in his messages he said he didn't know if he'd ever be able to come back to this line, because as soon as he goes back, he has to like do everything the exact same way to get back there. Because if he does anything,
follow the patterns and the rhythm of everything, basically.
Because if he does anything just a little bit wrong, it just makes a whole new line.
Right.
And that can be something as simple as he turned left down one street instead next time he turns right.
Or
Yeah.
he just looked behind him at a random point.
Yeah.
The weird thing would be the probability of going back in the future, because if you go back in the future, you'd still be traveling along that new world line in which you have created.
Yeah, that
Yes.
he explains how to go back in the future where you come from later in his messages.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that was something new I didn't even know about. So the new theory is that John Titor actually may have been here
That is the
far
popular
back
theory,
as
yes.
1998. Okay.
He said he was back in 1990. Sorry, that wasn't exactly John.
Is there any possibility of go back to 1998 and then either stay or just jump forward?
Well,
a
it's
couple
not
years?
confirmed it's the same person.
I was about to say, there's a
Right.
possibility of, if this happened in the future, the military being like, you both are being sent back for XYZ reason.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't really realize how many like time traveler stories there are actually out there. It's actually
There's
quite
quite a bit,
prevalent.
yeah.
Well, the reason
Yeah.
why this is connected to this is because of the year 2036, I'm pretty sure. Or 2035.
Yeah,
and
That's like the key
2036.
piece of evidence.
And a lot of
Yeah.
and the story is almost exactly the same between the two different dates where he was back in 1996 and the early 2000s.
And how the
Jeff,
time machine in general works.
Jeff, go get John. He took the time machine for a joyride again.
Time
Alright.
machine's actually based on a 1967 Charger to blend in with the time era.
Yep.
That's where it was
Anyways,
placed.
No DeLorean.
Continue with the original story then.
So then 2 years later, and I'm going to be reading some of the faxes, but not all of them.
Yeah.
There's two.
I mean, not the faxes, the messages I said.
Okay.
Yeah.
2 years later, a post by the handle Time Traveler Zero, which is what Steins Gate Zero. That's why they have the zero at the end, because Time Traveler Zero.
Yep.
A cool fact there. Anyway, on November 2nd, 2000, on a message board by the Time Traveler Zero, it says, "Greetings, I am a time traveler from the year 2036. I am on my way home after getting on my IBM 5100 computer system from the year 1975. My time machine is a stationary mass temporal displacement unit manufactured by General Electric. The unit is powered by two topspin dual positive singularities that produce a standard offset Tipler sensusoid. I will be happy to post a picture of the unit," which he did. And even the pictures kind of make sense on what it, how it works and runs.
Yeah, because everything looks like it revolves around itself.
Right.
I can find the picture somewhere on this.
Yeah, it's,
Are
like,
they
it's
green
actually
phone?
on.
I
Oh,
have
you
the
have seen it?
pictures
on
of
the
Okay.
wiki. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It looks like a box with a wire and like a radio on it.
I'm pretty sure I sell those at work.
We probably do.
Probably.
And then in an Art Bell forum post from January 28, 2001, it says, "My initial flight was from 2036 to 1975, 61 years. I then went from 1975 to 2000, 25 years. Later this year, one of two favorable windows will open and I will return to my 2036. I am here now for personal reasons." So there, when he said that I'm waiting for a certain window, favorable
He
window,
has to wait for conditions
Yes.
to be right to do it.
because if he misses, like, let's say he misses something and a butterfly that gets killed, going back to the butterfly effect. Well, the butterfly could have affected the future, and now he can't go back to his world line.
Yeah. He could have went to one where it's like exterminated a whole species.
Basically, yeah. And then in another post on the Art Bell forum post on February 2nd, 2001, "Although I do have personal reasons for being here and speaking with you, the most I could hope for is that you recognize the possibility of time travel as a reality. You are able to change your world line for better or worse, just as I am." Which basically kind of brings up the fact that we're, at this moment in time, if this is true, we are in John Titor's world line. We're not in our own or in like the alpha or original world line. We would be in John Titor's world line that he created.
Yeah, the one he created, not the one he came from.
Yeah.
Right, because by his predictions, things would be a lot different if it was on his world line.
With his predictions, we would be in a
We would have had 2 civil
second
wars.
American Civil War. No, that was 20.
By this time, we would have had a nuclear holocaust.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I thought that was in a few years.
No,
I heard
2015 is nuclear holocaust.
And at some point along that too, really close by, somebody or like there was another war where like EMP weaponry was initiated.
Well, that's why like it's
That was one thing that I heard about. So
As far as I know, it was just nuclear weapons were used.
China and Japan nuked Alaska, China, and some other place. I forget exactly what it was. I'm looking it up now.
and I believe the Russian and American war started after that.
Yeah.
But no, that like the fact that he created a new world line is why it's difficult for people to prove him wrong by stuff not happening.
Right.
Because that just changes everything just by him going back to the past.
it is believed, I did see this in a few different things, that if John Titor does exist, a lot of people theorize that he's responsible for the Mandela effect.
Well, that's the thing I was actually about to mention. The fact that he came back could be the possible reason for not only the Mandela effect, but also the what's it called? When you feel like you've done something before.
Deja vu.
Deja vu,
Yeah.
yes. Because of multiple different world lines.
You might have done it, but now you're on a different path.
Yes.
So it's like technically you never did that.
That-
You
So-
just have the memory of it.
Real quick, I just want to go over who is John Titor. So we know what the story of John Titor is. He was a time traveler that posted on message boards about things that were going to happen.
Yeah.
But who is John Titor himself? What does he say that he is?
John Titor, I forget his age, but he says that he was an American military person who the reason why he was sent back was because his grandfather worked with either worked or created the IBM 5100, so he knows more about it.
It says he was directly involved with the assembly and programming of the IBM 5100.
Okay. I know it's something along the lines.
Yep.
But he was sent back because of his relation to him. And then he said that before then he was in the war at the age of 12, 13?
13.
He
was in the
Florida Diamondbacks?
He was in the Florida Diamondbacks,
Yeah.
which was a shotgun infantry unit.
He would be 28 when he started time traveling.
Yes.
Okay.
Because he was 13 in 2011.
Yep.
And I just did the math, and yeah.
I think your math is wrong. Because if he started traveling in 2036,
Yeah.
and he was 13 in 2011, that doesn't seem to
Oh, yeah. I forgot. I forgot one. He would be... he would be 37, not 27.
Sure. Okay. I think that's right.
I forgot a 10.
Guess
in
what?
his
We're
Middle Ages-
podcasters. We're not mathematicians.
That's why I got the 67 Charger. He had the midlife crisis. I was like, I want the time machine in this. It's got to be in this.
You can have it. Hey, we're going to put the time machine in a box. No, we're putting it in a Mustang.
It was probably like, we're gonna put you in this tube as a time machine. No, that doesn't look rad enough. I want it in a 67
Probably
Mustang.
just uncovered one of these in the rubbles of war. I'm like, oh heck yeah.
Right.
I had heard too that and I don't know if it's consistent through information and stuff, that his division that he ended up in with the time traveling thing, that there were other people and it's basically their job was to collect specific things,
Yeah.
specific items and components and stuff that they
Because-
needed to rebuild society.
Because
basically.
Y2K number 2 was going to happen in 2 years
Right.
for them.
Correct.
That's why they needed the IBM.
Because IBM
They
5100.
needed to debug various legacy computer programs in 2036 because it says here, which is a possible reference to the Unix 2038 problem where most devices won't be able to change their clock times after January 19th.
Basically Y2K, but in the future.
right.
Y3K.
Which has something
Yeah.
to do with the coding process of binary.
Yeah.
It can only go so far.
It can only go
Right.
so many digits. I think it was
Right.
38 digits of binary.
And I believe I've never really looked
32?
into it much.
32?
But Y2K,
Yeah,
basically the
32-bit.
paranoia
Okay.
of collapse
That might be
of
it.
I believe it goes-
all the
Yeah, because
infrastructure and
most
stuff.
computers are started off on that. Oh,
You're fine.
oh
But
most
just
computers.
don't talk over each other because Ramen Cat was talking
Yeah,
and then
but
you
me
two
and-
started
yeah,
having
yeah.
a conversation. That's not how podcasting
No,
works.
it's not.
That's why I stopped.
You should all know. You're all professionals.
We've
Don't
never-
headbutt the mic.
Go on, Ramen Cat, though.
Oh, I was just saying, it wasn't Y2K a case of where it was basically just if the computers and stuff.
Y2K, the Y2K scare of the Millennium era, everybody thought that the computers would literally just shut down.
Right.
Yeah. Airplanes would be
Because-
falling out of the sky.
Because the clocks back then, if I remember right, I haven't read up on this in a long time. The clocks would only go up to the millennium.
Yeah.
Like you can only set your clock up.
So they
far.
were worried about things like basically stocks and all that. The whole
Well,
thing
they
just
were worried about the
disappearing.
stock market. They were worried about medical equipment. They were worried about because we were bringing our world into the online
Mhm.
world. So they're afraid that we literally could not access certain things that we had brought into the internet.
Right.
Because like at this point in our time, right now, if the internet literally shut down, if we had no access to our computer, our world would cease to function.
Yeah.
All our utilities, all of our resources would not be able to be produced. I mean,
Bluetooth
nothing would work.
shoes.
Yes.
Yes, you're literally
I can't
Bluetooth
walk
shoes
without
those.
that
Oh, I
will
know.
order Pizza Hut.
Yeah, I know. They're the most ridiculous thing. But it's things like that.
Yeah.
We become so integrated with everything.
Yeah. Like literally, we all have a device that's strapped to our hip that literally tells us anything and will get us anything that we want.
Yeah.
So, and that's what that's supposedly what John Titor's trying to fix for the future, where they're having a second actual Y2K where the clocks won't be able to go any further.
Right.
And if a computer's internal clock won't go any further, it does start malfunctioning.
So I
Yep.
just looked up Y2K. It was basically that computers would read the year,
Yeah.
but only display the last two digits, and
Yeah.
that's how they would read the year.
Yeah.
So the year 2000 or 20,000 or 2000 and 1900 would be the same.
Yes.
It would read it as the same year. So it just mess everything up and just
That kind of makes sense because I was playing around with a program at work, and granted it has to do with postal. Why I would ever need access to a record of it, it went back to like 1899. For
Yeah.
what reason, I don't know.
Well, that's because the postal records have all been archived.
yeah.
Yeah.
So everything that was on paper, we have scanned and added to the
yeah.
cloud.
So I guess in some way, if I could do it, I could go back and find like, yeah, this was a turn of the century item or article that got
Yes,
shipped here.
exactly.
So
Like if you look on, there's sites that is like historian, like I don't know what it's called,
The
but there's
Time
like
Machine.
a historian site
Yeah.
where you can go way back, like
Yeah.
The
way
Wayback
back
Machine.
and find articles and stuff.
The
It's
So,
called the
Wayback
Wayback
Mach-
Machine.
yeah, so that's also meant for just online. But there's also other sites that will bring up like old newspapers and stuff from like the 1600s.
a lot
Yeah.
of like big libraries have that
Yes.
integrated.
Like the
into
Library of Congress, everything's mostly digital there. Like
Yeah.
we actually have physical copies, but if you're actually going to research stuff, you usually go onto the online database.
Right, because everything's archived back.
Right. Also, you can't touch most of the stuff or else it'll disintegrate.
Yeah.
So.
it. Yeah.
It's a slight issue.
So one thing too, and again, I don't know because a lot of information varies. In Titor's thing, like the fact that multiple wars are mentioned, I had read also too that he said that aside from being in the service, he also had a fairly normal life for what they had. Like they were very social in their time.
Yeah.
He said without the use of a lot of like electronics and stuff, people were more social. Like they were more.
They had lots of outings and stuff.
Yeah.
Community central.
Think of it like World War II or the Civil War.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Where
he
community
said
is
like
focused.
he saw that also happening in our time, like during the early 2000s when the power would go out.
Yeah, yep.
Like he said, it reminded me of the future where people were more social and interactive with people when the power went out.
Well, it's interesting too because along with that, I did see things where it's like he said that he was still like talking to people in other countries and stuff too. Like internet existed in their
Yes,
time,
yeah.
and it's like it was still normal to be like, hey, let's play something.
Yep.
John Titor's a future boomer. Get off your phones, kids.
Pretty much.
But no, it's just interesting to me because it's like it's kind of that it's a bit off topic. It's just that life goes on, even when it's total anarchy around you. Life just keeps going.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the biggest attribute humans have is we adapt and we just change. We form to what is going on.
Yeah.
So if we lose internet, yes, it's gonna be chaos for probably like the first year or something.
Yeah,
right?
but we still have family, still
But,
have friends.
Yeah, we'll still go back to normal. We will still figure out how to go to the grocery store, buy food, and when that runs out, we'll go shoot a deer.
Yeah.
Well, some of us, some other people would probably
Somebody
just
will
go
probably
insane.
shoot deer and be like, mark it.
Meanwhile, there's people in their nuclear silos they bought that thought the world ended like 10 years ago and they're still down there.
Yeah. And they have another, was it Half-Life? I think most Half-Life people say 50 years.
I think I kind of want to get a CB radio, in all honesty, and just mess with those people.
Wait, there's
I
people
am
that
the
are locked.
ghost.
There's people locked away in vaults.
Yes,
basically?
there are
don't
people
doubt
that
it.
have locked away themselves in vaults. Like,
I want to say during the 2008 market crash, some
Yep.
people freaked
lot of
out
people
and
did.
literally went into their get out bunkers.
do you know what a
Really?
prepper
Lock
is, right?
themselves.
What?
You know what a prepper is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, a lot of people like that in 2008 and I believe in 2012, they basically whenever there's a sign of possible nuclear war, a multitude of preppers will just lock themselves in their bunkers and nuclear silos.
Oh, I remember in 2012, like, it wasn't covered a lot, but the whole country was on the brink of, like, killing each other.
Yeah, they like basically just cut out all the electricity. They don't talk to anyone. They seal up everything and they just sit there and like, I'll come out someday.
Yep. Well, a
Comes
lot
out
of preppers
Metropolis.
have figured out the half-life of nuclear stuff, which I think is like 20, 30 years, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Where the half-life radiation dies out enough where you can actually go on, like with
Yeah.
like hazmat protection. But
500, I believe it was.
What?
Well, no, there's a
sorry.
certain level where it's like you can wear the proper gear and you'll still be safe.
500 is where it goes to where you can be out.
You're talking
like
like
normal
total
life.
nuclear annihilation.
Oh, is that not what we're talking about?
No.
No, we're talking just like a nuclear
Basically,
attack.
think like Chernobyl.
Oh.
Chernobyl is about, what, how many years ago that happened? 30 years? Give or
No,
take?
it's longer
40,
than that.
50.
It
What, back
happened in the
70s?
70s.
To
Oh, okay.
the internet.
So
I mean, now the only thing you can't really do in Chernobyl is kick up dirt.
well, you can't fight wolves because they'll kill you.
You can't.
Right.
They're bigger
eat,
than us.
You can't eat any of the animals. You can't fish. You can't go swimming. Don't go
Right,
anywhere
but
near the
it's
reactors.
It's like basically you can walk around and stuff, just don't disturb the wildlife, don't disturb the fauna and
Yeah.
flora.
Well, the reason you can't touch stuff is because it's so radioactive.
Yeah.
And if you get bit, there's a possibility of becoming Wolfman.
Yeah.
But anyways, back to John Titor.
Yes, back to John Titor. So, what are some of the things that he predicted?
Well, some things he's predicted, like we've mentioned before, there was the 2 civil wars. There was the nuclear holocaust. Is it a holocaust?
I think
I
it was
think
just a nuclear war because a holocaust means
Total
everything's done, right?
Yeah.
Nuclear war, and I'm hitting Wolf's mic out of his way.
That almost hit my face.
I'm sorry.
You almost smacked J-Dog.
I'm trying to look here. I want to say it was definitely just a nuclear war because California is still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
If it was a total nuclear annihilation, California would no longer
It doesn't really go into too much detail of anything I see. I feel like it was probably just a case of someone launched a nuke, someone else launched a nuke. It's like, oh, we shouldn't do that.
well, it's mainly because we have the mutual destruction plan, which is stupid. But that's
Mad.
probably what happened.
I'm slow on the research, but Chernobyl happened 35 years ago.
35 years
Okay.
ago? Okay.
You're just gonna become our fact checker for the podcast, which I'm okay with.
I just need to type faster.
Yeah, we're just gonna need to get you like a computer.
But after there was
You're
also
the one with that.
I know, but I'm using to read notes.
was it 2012 the stock market crash happened?
In our world line?
No. In John Titor.
I don't remember him saying the stock market.
think-
Yeah,
crashed.
that didn't happen. I think that was during the police state and then the Civil War.
Yeah, police state civil war. That was when the stock market crashed. Then there was the falsified election in 2008 that he predicted.
All right, so I found it. He said World War in 2015 killed nearly 30 million people. And World War means nuclear
3
war.
billion.
3 billion.
Sorry, I missed count.
That's a bigger number than 30 million.
He said that Iraq would be invaded. Surprise.
No, he says, are you really surprised to find out that Iraq has nukes now? Or is that just BS to whip everyone up into accepting the next war?
Right. He says something about the future Olympics.
After
After 2004, there would be no official Olympics. It'd be revived in 2040,
Maybe,
maybe.
because he doesn't know.
because he's not that old yet.
Hidden function, an overheated space plane. He said something about
Now that one was one that
This one
people-
did happen.
it
yeah.
does. It happened
Yes.
many times.
No. This specific case, because he was poking holes at a specific spacecraft launching at a
Oh.
specific place, and he's like, "Have you figured out the problem to your heat solution yet?"
overheating
And
problem.
it actually happened, and they're like, "What?"
He predicted hydrogen a little bit.
Solar being a big deal.
Right. Speaking to the mic, Wolf.
I can't read because it's behind me.
I know.
He kind of predicted a lot of like a bunch of Einstein's theory of relativity stuff. He
I think it
predicted.
was like 2 years after his original posts. Stephen Hawking
Yes.
revisited his Hawking radiation theory
Yeah. Well,
and
I mean, like,
changed it to actually fit more into his theory of John's time travel.
both Stephen Hawking and I believe Mike Tyson made fun of John Titor because of how popular it became. But then, like a year or two later, they were both like, "Well, our theories kind of changed a bit, and it kind of is to his benefit."
I don't think that was Mike Tyson. Isn't that what you said?
Yeah, did I get his name wrong?
Yeah.
Oh,
What's his Mike Tyson's the boxer, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Not the scientist.
Oh, I honestly
Neil
thought they were the same
deGrasse
person.
Tyson.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought they were the same person. I honestly thought until
No.
today, like this guy bit off a man's ear and went to science.
That's actually, I think, a real life running joke about them supposedly being related to each other.
have
And they're not.
One got the brains, one got the body.
Have you ever heard?
One got the ear.
I think there was a I can't say cartoon, but there was like an adult cartoon called Mice Tyson's Mysteries. And that's actually a joke in the show
That's funny.
where they're brothers.
All right. So, and then his last words, one of his last words were actually said really well. He said, "When the day comes for my predictions to be realized, it will either happen or not. If it does happen, then your ability to judge your environment is crippled by acceptance of me as a knower of all things and gifted with the ability to tell the future. If I am wrong, then everything I have said that might possibly have made you think about your world in a different way is suddenly discredited, and I do not want either."
In other words, he wanted people to take it and think about it.
Well,
Right. Don't just
and
accept it.
here's the
blindly.
last
Yes.
part. Although I do have personal reasons for being here and speaking with you, the most could have hoped for is that you recognize the ability of time travel as a reality. You are able to change your world line for better or for worse, just as I am.
He actually offered to take people with him back to the future.
Yeah.
It's not confirmed whether he did or didn't. But I like to think of it as a possibility as someone's like, "Take me."
he's already said before in it, or people have, of like going back to see themselves, and
I-
basically just hanging out with
I mean,
themselves.
he
See
can
if I
way-
can find that.
I mean, he can only ride in the 67 Charger, so you can only take one, maybe two other people with him.
He said he could take 3 people with him.
Yeah.
They'd have to go up to, I want to say it was Wisconsin, to get a Ford truck, drive that to Florida, go back in time to the other time he was in, sell that car, get a different car, then use that car to go back into the future.
Yeah. It was quite complicated.
Because he'd have to follow his footsteps backwards to go back to
so
where
he
he
was
Yeah.
giving them instructions basically to meet up with him at a specific point.
He was just saying, hey, this is what I have to do to go back into time. You can come with me, but it's going to be boring.
Yeah.
Right.
It kind of makes me wonder if anyone did follow the instructions.
Well, there's a lot of people like follow this guy religiously, so there's a big possibility some people did. And if we don't hear from him anymore, there's a possibility that they went back in time.
or ended up in a different world line.
Yeah.
Entirely.
To me, it kind of sounds like the you guys know Doctor Who, right?
Mhm.
His companions are people. He picks companions that nobody knows of.
Right.
The nobodies of the world, the people that nobody would miss, people that don't really have family, that don't really have like loved ones,
Or an impact on the world at
or
all.
the impact on the world at all. Or he picks people that are soon to die.
Yep.
So like that's usually the way he picks his companions in the show. And it kind of reminds me of that like maybe John Titor would pick some people like that.
People
Because
that
of
could be
course he's
helpful
not
to
going to
him.
accidentally, of course he's not going to accidentally pick the great grandfather or not even the great grandfather of the father of the person that created like time travel or something like that. Because it's like, oops, I sent you to the future. I guess I don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because too with his message, because to me it's basically be open to the idea of time travel, because without being it, science would never look into it, and it never would be.
Right.
That was very interesting. Another thing too is a lot of people would be like, I guess, would message him and be like, well, how do we know it's true? And he's like, I don't care if you believe me or not.
Yeah.
Right, and that's where he opened up the possibility to the multi-worlds theory, because he's like, with me just coming and talking on this online forum, the things I am saying could not even happen. It could be a
Right.
possibility where they don't happen. It could be a possibility that they happen sooner or later.
And if you think about it too, by using the internet, not only could he get out to everyone that had a computer at the time, he can do it in a way that won't alter anything.
Not really.
Not
Well,
by his control.
if you think about it, the internet is the one thing that transcends time.
It does, but at the same time, he's not like going up before Congress and just flat out, I am from the future.
right.
I think he did it on the internet so way more people would see it, it'd get a bigger impact, and it could last through the ages.
Right.
Right.
So that way we'll always have it in the back of our mind, this is a
And
possibility.
it would always be there. Somebody like, you know what, we're going for it.
Well, especially how big this exploded.
I
Yeah.
actually have the explanation he gave on how he got to the past, like his whole trip.
Awesome. Go ahead and say that.
It's going to be confusing. Just to let
okay,
people
That's
know.
time travel.
Okay. I'll start and try to not mess up my words. On my world line A in 2036, I was given a mission in 1975. I turned my machine on and jumped to another world line, which was B, in 1975, with about a 2% divergence from A. So it's 2% different from his original.
So he could be living in a world with Bevy, it is now Chevy.
Yeah.
Yep.
From the very point I turned my machine off on B, I created a new world line just because I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
This line can be described as C and started when I got to B.
Yep.
I am now doing my mission on line C in 1975 when I discovered a very good reason to go forward on C to see what happened. I turned my machine on and go forward on C to the year 2000. When I turn it off, I start another line called D. So from my perspective here, we are on line D in the year 2000. In order to go home to line A, I must turn my machine on and go back on D until I reach C, which in turn would take me back to B, which in turn takes me to a point before I arrived on B. Then I go forward from the point I arrived on B back to A.
So he basically has to have a checkpoint.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, he literally has to skip. It's
Yeah.
like skipping across like water.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he has to hit each point to get back to his original world line,
Yeah.
which is actually really brilliant for the show Steins Gate.
Yeah.
Because if you look at Steins Gate,
That's a lot of what they do.
that's a lot with, like in the first show, like with the messages, because in the show they are sending back just text messages, which would change the world lines. It'd make the world line shift. He actually literally had to go through the show and get people that were sending the text messages, because he let all of his friends send like a message to change what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
He had to convince all of them not to send those messages, or to send a certain message that would revert them back to the previous world line.
Okay.
I also found the message he sent about the trucks and stuff on his way back.
Okay. We will talk about that after our break, because
That's
we
what I
have
thought.
a sponsor break coming up really quick. So yeah, we will be right back.
Do we do the break time thing here or no?
We don't.
Aw.
If you want to though,
Yes. Break time.
and we'll see you on the other side.
See ya.
How come no one clapped?
We didn't know
Oh, I
what's
thought
going
that
on.
was just you.
And we're back.
From
Hello.
our brief time travel into the future.
It only took 38 hours.
Do you know that technically your head is younger than your feet? Or is it older? Yeah, it's older than your feet. Your head is
If
technically
you're
older than your
trying to
feet.
quote an old Santa
No,
Claus
no.
movie,
Your head
failing.
is older than your feet. Because
Are you talking cell decay?
not just cell decay and just time, how time is warped through how closer you are to gravity.
Also, technically, and like a fetus, the head exists first.
Well, no, it's just more of a when there's more of a gravitational pull, that's where time is slowest. So the closer to the core you're getting, the slower the time is.
I think
He's trying to say I'm tall.
I think so.
No, I'm
Anyway,
just saying in
so
general.
Best compliment ever.
A biggest thing to blow your mind is that you will never see the present, because everything you see takes time for light to go from that object to your eye, so you never see it in the exact moment you live in.
And this is why I do cocaine on every day that ends with Y.
Well, that has been
Wow.
looked behind you.
all right then.
The
more you
you
Wolf.
know.
You're gonna talk about the cars really quick.
Oh shoot, I forgot to pull that back up.
He deleted that entire webpage.
Anyways, to bring you guys back up to date, we are talking about John Titor and about the messages he sent, supposedly all the way from 1998 all the way up to, I think it was, 2001?
Yes,
Space
2001. November
Yeah.
2001.
His
I do
post
believe.
ended in March 2001. And he
March, okay.
predicted things. He claimed supposedly in the future there was things like a civil war. There was a brain disease that degraded brain tissue. He predicted a civil war in America as well as a nuclear war.
There was technically a brain disease that affected infants mainly.
Yes, and that was his
Zika.
prediction. It was called the Jacobson's disease.
Well, this one was the Zika virus. But because of
Right.
the time differences, it could have changed the name,
Right.
or it might be a different disease in general. We're not sure yet.
But anyways, and we right before the break we were talking about his ways to travel into the future and out of the future. We're talking about multiple world timelines as well.
You know,
Did
in today's world, if someone claimed to be a soldier at 13, we just label them as cringe.
Yeah, pretty much, because he's pretty much just a Call of Duty soldier.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Why?
Did you find it yet, Wolf?
It took me forever to find it the last time, but why?
Did he find it, J-Dog?
Give me another couple seconds.
Check your
Alright.
web browser history.
It's 3 Dog!
It was looking through on the Discord, so it doesn't.
The best radio in the capital wasteland. If anybody gets that reference, you guys are awesome Fallout fans.
Yes, yes, they are. We should go forward in time to the Capital Wasteland and record all our podcasts.
Heck yeah.
You guys found my time machine?
No, you said
Okay,
you were going to build us all one.
Oh, okay.
Well, you
Okay.
see, I couldn't get present time pyrolis, so I had to get future pyrolis.
Oh.
It was sent through fax.
Yes.
Okay.
With using DOS.
A lot of weird things happen through fax. A time traveler reports through fax, and here, several years ago now, we got a threat from North Korea through fax.
That makes so much sense.
There is
It went to a random office.
That's scary.
there is a time travel theory that someone is actually working on in a science lab where they can send back this person. They don't believe that that an actual person go back in time, but they believe that like we can send data back in time. So which I don't know. I personally don't agree with. I obviously do believe people can go back in time, but this guy does not. He's not researching people at all. But one of the things he's working on is because of how light bends around gravity. He's trying to work on something that bends a certain type of laser frequency around, so that way he can send like messages back in time.
Oh, cool. That's
They
interesting.
very well could be on the verge of that because I didn't really put two and two of this here about 2018, 2019. They did what they considered teleporting information. Like there was two research places in different countries did this.
Mhm.
And rather than have that slight latency of information traveling back and forth, it just went instantaneously. Not much. It was in small packets.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
But it was considered the first technical teleporting
Right.
of something.
Well, that kind of like coincides with bringing it back up the anime and Steins Gate, how Okabe and Taro sends back his mind as data packets back
Right.
to the past.
Yep. And there's that whole theory that we are definitely not informed enough to delve into. But all right, Wolf. The
Okay.
cars.
So yeah, this is the story about when people are asking him, "Can we go back with you?"
Yes.
And this is him explaining his return trip.
Right.
So I'll start reading the full thing.
You already read half of it.
No,
Oh.
this is a
No,
different.
he was
one.
explaining.
Oh, okay.
That was the explaining going back and forth.
Oh, okay.
This
Okay.
is like the actual story
Okay.
of how he goes back.
Makes sense.
For all of you interested in coming back with me to 2036, perhaps we should discuss the trip. Please be aware the displacement unit moves through time, not space. First, we will be driving the current vehicle, Chevy truck, with the displacement unit in Tampa, Florida. From there, we will go back to my arrival date on this world line. Then we will have to drive to Minnesota, sell the current vehicle, and get another one that would have been around 1975. We will then move the displacement unit, 500 pounds or so, that's big, into the new vehicle and go back to 1975. Once in 1975, we'll drive back to Tampa and make the final hop to 2036. If you like to stay in 1975, you're welcome to do that. It can also get quite hot and stuffy during the trip, and you'll be subject to a 1.5 to 2 G force the entire time. You will also need some sort of rebreather system or oxygen supply.
Oh, that's interesting.
So yeah, so it's like he's going through basically a gap where pretty much everything isn't present.
Right. No air, and it sounds like high G. So maybe
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
there's
Well,
not.
black hole.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh yeah, basically.
In a different message, he said that it's not instantaneous.
Right.
They're traveling through time. It's like you're in a car driving through a dark tunnel.
Well, if you think about it, you would have to not only with traversing time, not only hopping years, you're hopping right down to milliseconds.
Yes.
That you have to cover all of those.
There's
basically.
actually, in his time machine, there's a full device that is kind of looking back in time or your destination. Like, is there going to be a random table where you are? Or like, is there going to be something that's going to impede where you're landing? If so, we're just going to stop and send you back to make sure that you don't
and then you just retry at a different position.
Yep, so that you don't appear in a wall or appear in a desk.
Because that's not fun.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because, like, you look at a picture of Florida from the 60s and it's like, here's just little patches of neighborhood you look at now, and that same neighborhood is a whole sprawling metropolis.
Exactly.
Yep.
I remember in the anime Steins Gate, which is heavily based off of this theory and stuff, CERN was doing time travel experiments, and one of the pictures is a guy halfway into a wall.
Yep.
Because they did the temporal displacement wrong.
Yep.
As well as in the anime, they explained that the time travel device itself could not move. Like, it couldn't, like, fly around.
It could not travel through space.
It pretty much had to be in one spot, and they had to make sure that that spot was consistent through history as well.
That's the same with his time machine.
Yeah.
It doesn't move through space, it moves through time.
Right.
So, also, just one thing as I'm thinking about it, does the actual CERN do you guys, since you two both know about CERN, have any connections with this?
CERN actually has quite a few connections with this in the fact of they are discovering ways to basically go the speed of light.
They
Enter
deny
black
having
holes.
a black hole, but I disbelieve them. I think they do have black hole personally.
Yes.
It's weird that they deny having that, considering they like to flaunt the particle accelerator.
I've
And the
act-
fact they like to create black holes that
Yeah.
it disappear.
Well,
Right.
it's like
They say that they haven't figured out how to contain the singularity.
It would seem like all of us would just be stuff that would be, hello world, look what we have done.
Well, if you think about it, if a government gets their hand on the research, it'd be considered classified. And the
Yeah.
general
The thing
public
is-
wouldn't know.
How CERN works is it's a bunch of countries in Europe have come together to put their greatest minds there.
Yeah.
Right now it's being led by Germany.
No.
So anything could be going on there, really.
So CERN has made discoveries such as the W and Z particle, which are different, like, new particles that have never been discovered before. They have discovered.
Does this talk about the God particle? Anyway,
This does
that they
talk about the
discovered?
God
Okay.
particle.
I believe
The
wasn't
Higgs
CERN also
boson particle?
Yes, I think that's what it's
wasn't
about.
CERN also responsible for making like the first synthetic atom that they basically communicated with?
I don't know.
There
about
was
that story.
there was a lab where they had a theory that atoms, you could communicate with them with a frequency, and so they made a synthetic atom, which was a first in itself, I believe. But then they beamed it with certain frequencies, and while it didn't communicate, like, it's not sentient, obviously, it relayed back frequencies.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that was CERN or if that was a different research lab.
So the God particle is called the Higgs boson, which is the fundamental boson, which is the fundamental particle associated with the Higgs field, a field that gives mass to other fundamental particles such as electrons and quarks. Which quarks are the fundamental cell to everything.
It's the smallest thing that they have observed.
Well, now the Higgs boson is the smallest thing.
And
observed.
also, CERN has discovered something called dark matter.
Yes.
Which dark matter has the closest association with time travel.
Dark matter was a theory until like a few months ago. An asteroid went straight through what they thought was a black hole and it turned out to be just little puffs of dark matter.
Which leads into the time travel theory, where if we're able to harness miniature black holes, we would be able to use them to fast forward ourselves in time because of the gravity distortion.
The thing with a black hole, like I said before, the bigger the mass is and the more gravity it has, the slower time is around you. Let's say you fall into a black hole, right? Mm-hmm. Time for you basically stops. You're falling into that black hole forever.
So my job.
Basically, yes. But everyone around you sees you instantly go in and get crushed.
My job.
Yes.
Well, we don't see you instantly get crushed. We just see you throughout the day get crushed.
That's the theory of falling into a black hole.
That is the theory. We haven't tested it yet because no one's been willing to participate yet.
Yeah. I have heard it's very vaguely too. It's like, well, a lot of people hypothesize if you could stabilize black hole using that as an energy source for like spacecraft and stuff, but also the time travel thing of basically, and we're here.
If we can actually harness a black hole, a lot of things are going to be opening up.
Yeah. Because the black hole's distortion of gravity, which is time through space. Mm-hmm. Space-time is gravity. I believe so.
Well, gravity bends space-time.
Yes, that is... Yeah, it gets very confusing at that point.
I feel like at this point we're just going to get sniped by a physicist.
Well, that is the theory of relativity, the fact that space-time is bent by gravity, which Einstein discovered in like 1920, 1930 something.
Right.
Yeah, it was with his rethought of gravity.
Yes.
Where he just says, gravity is the distortion in space-time. So a good way to picture it is you have a fabric over a table that has cord out so it can fall down. You take a ball, you put it in the table, and then you take another ball and you put it like a foot away from the cloth, and it'll roll to the other ball. The fabric is space-time, and the ball is distorting it, making other objects go to it.
That's why the Earth is spinning around the sun, for example. Because the sun is, let's say, a bowling ball in the middle of a trampoline, bending the fabric down, and then the Earth is basically just a ball that's moving at such a high velocity that it's not really going towards it, but it's going around it.
That's the orbit.
It's funny as this is all just reminding me of stuff I learned in school. And this is the problem with World Afterwards, where it's like science is optional.
The school actually doesn't really teach this.
No, my school did teach things like this. It's just they covered it to get you interested in it. It was just, it's been so long since I've studied about it.
This is now more taught regularly.
Okay, well, space-time. When I was in school, what we were taught was the world is flat, there's an orbit, that's it. It's controlled by gravity. That's
you were also born in like the 1600s, so...
I mean, that's fair, but still...
There's actually a funny joke. This teacher was fixing a little tear in his display for gravity, and another teacher walked in. It's like, "What you doing?" And it's like, "Oh, I'm just fixing a tear in space-time."
That is definitely teacher humor right there.
Yeah, that is.
All right, well, with that, I think we went over...
We got 7 minutes.
I think we went over it all pretty well.
Yeah, there's not much else. I don't think anyone has heard from Titor since.
No.
It'd be kind of cool if he came back and
well, Titor wouldn't really have a reason to
apply screwdriver to current reality.
The last time he was here, he actually had a person that he trusted and apparently gave them a name of a song, and only him and her knew about it. So anybody that comes out to be John would have to know that name of the song to prove that it's them.
Okay.
And so far, no one's guessed the name of the song.
Which disproves some of these people that have supposedly come forward to
It's like,
proclaim that,
yep.
I'm John.
What's the song name? Don't Stop Me Now.
Don't stop me now.
Copyright flag.
I'm pretty sure if we got copyrighted, we deserve to be on that band.
What's the song? Happy birthday to you. You got it.
But yeah, no, I did see a little bit of that of where someone had been given the song.
Yep.
And
Watch it be the Song of the Stars.
I have seen where
Watch
it's
it be Lucy in the Sky of Diamonds.
I have seen where it's like a lot of people have come forward claiming to be John, including a entertainment lawyer.
Yes.
Who
and his brother. They supposedly created the whole persona of
right.
John Titor.
Well, that one's kind of iffy depending whose perspective you take it as.
Exactly.
Because people say that that's what they did, but one of the brothers like, no, that is not what we did.
Right.
I just knew the family.
I did see also a thing where some people theorized too that it might have been an actual IBM worker who wanted to leak information. And
yes, a computer engineer. So.
Yeah.
There's also another theory where it's kind of a ARG linked to a tabletop RPG game that has in the story the same events that John gives out, like the wars and stuff, and like the story of the game, it has the same exact events at the same exact time. So some people are thinking maybe it's an ARG linked to that game, but it hasn't been.
I hope it's a time traveler for real, but at the same time, that's the greatest advertising strategy ever.
Oh, heck yeah.
There is a guy, I forget who he's called, but he made a thing called Ong's Hat, which was basically a social experiment, and he says that John Titor basically is copying him. But no one will ever really know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has a lot of similarities with a lot of ARGs too.
Yeah.
Where it's a mystery and like you can kind of figure it out, and then you find a link to an IP.
I do think one of the biggest things to this that really deters it from being a attention grab thing is the fact that it is so enforced, this whole thing. I don't care if you believe me. I don't want you to just blindly follow this. Discredit it if you want to.
Don't think I'm all-knowing.
Think about it.
Right. And that's a cool part. Like, even if this was just some very early day internet troll, right?
Yep.
It's still cool of the fact of he wasn't necessarily doing it for publicity.
Yeah.
He was doing it for really science, like to try to get people interested into it.
Yeah, if it was somebody just making up something, it was to promote science, it was to promote, I guess, a little bit of individual thinking.
Yeah.
Be aware of your future.
Right, exactly.
Critical thought.
Yeah.
Even if this was done by a troll, this troll was a freaking genius because of the theories that he had shown, the things that he's discussed about that didn't exist at the time.
We do know this. Scientists are trolls. They like to prank people
Yes.
with
They
the
do.
stuff that they have discovered.
And this guy would have to be some type of higher intellectual as well. Well, not
Especially-
necessarily, but the way
could
he
be a
writes,
physicist.
but the way he writes is very articulate.
Yes.
It's not just some prankster trying to make a 15-minute fame.
At the time
Yeah.
he showed up, he'd have to be very well read on different research papers and just science in general around the subject, because unlike right now, you didn't have like YouTube where you could just be like, I'm going to watch these 10 videos and be able to.
Right. What, YouTube hadn't come out for 5 years?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think so.
5 years after he
Internet
left.
was still fairly difficult to navigate
Yeah.
at this point.
Well, which is why he was posting on a messaging board.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have Discord or Gmail or
Yeah,
stuff
I feel
Actually,
like
he did talk
Discord...
about email.
He did?
Well,
with the
they did
lady.
have email at that
Well,
point.
they had email, but it wasn't like Gmail where you can just shoot back messages very easily. It was very rudimental.
It will get
Just
there when
see
it
it
gets
now.
there.
Yeah.
John puts message in Discord server gets deleted.
Mod's
my.
like, not today.
I don't want none of your crazy talk. Get out.
So this brings us to the very end of our topic, and really quickly we'll go through everybody and we'll just say, what do you guys think is going on here? So we'll start with you, Round Cat.
Honestly, when I first started this, I thought it would be, no way. But the more I look at it, the science in its complexity is also really simplistic, and it kind of fits the rhythm of everything, how
Yeah.
the world
Yeah.
works with stuff.
It's simple enough where it's believable.
Yeah, it's not that thing of, it shows up and causes some drastic change. It's just literally the environment fixes itself
Yeah.
around the subject.
It's not like it's coming out of a TV show.
Right.
Yep.
It's very believable. So I'm open to the idea of it.
Okay. And what about you, Wolf? What do you think?
I think, like I said, it's one of three things.
Yep.
He's actually a time traveler. He's a very intelligent troll,
Mm-hmm.
or it's part of an ARG.
Okay. What is your personal top?
ARG or time traveler.
Okay. And what about you, pyrolis?
The main thing that gets me is the fact that all the, like I was saying before, all the theories and everything that he's discussed that was discredited, that was disproven, well, try to be disproven by like Einstein and
Yeah.
Tyson, Neil deGrasse Tyson, were eventually proven. The things that he talked about in the past about that didn't even exist yet
Yeah.
became proven through time. So that's the biggest thing that gets me,
Yeah.
because either he's a genius that did a bunch of research and never made any papers on anything,
Yeah.
and he just like let it all credit so he could get a good laugh out of it, or he's a time traveler.
Okay.
See, another thing too with that too is like even the things that didn't happen, a lot of those came really close to happening and just kind of faded into conspiracy theory.
Right. Like the whole Iraq thing. Like the way he said the Iraq stuff wasn't exactly perfect, but it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
No,
his-
it's like in this case, it's like Iran now is a country that has nuclear capability at this point.
Right.
I think
Who
the
would have
biggest thing,
thought at that time?
his closest theory, because it was closest in time to him, was the heat shield thing on the rocket.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was spot on.
Because it was so close to him, when he showed up, it would be the least affected by him showing up.
That
Yeah.
does make
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
And I mean, I guess when was the disease?
The
one you're
Zika
talking-
virus, or whatever it was
Well,
called?
there was also for a stint in the early 2000s mad cow disease.
Yes, there
That
was.
is a brain deteriorating disease.
Yep.
Yeah.
And some people were speculating if that could jump to humans or not.
Yeah.
And think about it, a 2% shift. It could have made it where it didn't jump to humans.
Yeah, because that's all it takes for microbes is just a slight alteration.
We
Well,
all know that from the big bad virus nowadays. So.
Yes.
Well, he said there were times they come back and car manufacturers wouldn't exist.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah.
Or there'd be a building where there wasn't, or his favorite like coffee shop didn't exist no more.
yeah.
Just
Yeah.
imagine there's a timeline out there somewhere where there's a Volkswagen Lobster instead of a Volkswagen Beetle.
Is that like a motorcycle version?
Nah, it's just a really long Volkswagen.
It's like a Volkswagen convertible.
Yeah.
Not convertible, limousine.
Yes. All
A
right.
convertible limousine.
I think everybody kind of guesses my opinion, but I am very much for this. I am very much a sci-fi fanatic.
Oh, it's awesome for that.
I mean, you're
And-
the guy who's like, Mothman is a time traveler.
Exactly. And that would make sense. He even says somewhere in his posts that UFOs, I keep on punching Wolf's mic.
That's okay. I punched pyrolysis
Yeah, we're-
earlier.
That UFOs were just possible future time travelers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Which
he
adds
did.
into my theory that like the Mothman and UFOs are just people literally taking tours of like past.
Yeah, this is with the high tech.
Yeah, exactly.
And on our left, we see Biden falling up some stairs.
Yeah, actually, that was a little detail it didn't cover was the fact of and talked about very briefly like UFOs and not knowing what they were still.
Right.
Yeah.
They still didn't know, which we know now. UFOs have been acknowledged by pretty much all governments at this
They've
point.
actually
and they're-
changed the name of what we would call UFOs, or like UFAs.
Yeah,
Yes.
and now it's just universally across the entire globe. What is that thing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
No
it's-
one can catch up to them.
Well, it's because like Russia, Japan, China, the U.S., Mexico, they're all pointing fingers at each other like, why are you flying planes over us? Why are you flying planes over us?
Yeah, and meanwhile,
Wait a
it's just
second.
something.
Like in World War II, like, why are the Germans got spinning flying discs?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the Germans were saying the same things.
Why do the
about
Americans
us.
have flying spinning discs?
Explain.
Meanwhile, Britain, holy crap, flying spinning disc.
Where are they coming from?
They were just happy it wasn't Zeppelins bombing them. So.
Yeah,
It's War of the Worlds all over again.
but I think it could be possible.
I think so. And it might just be biased. Like, this is definitely not very scientific, but I just want it to exist.
It'd be so
Because
awesome.
in a way, in this crazy world, it kind of gives me hope.
Yeah,
Because at least we're not in a nuclear holocaust right now.
maybe John fixed that.
So
Right.
as far as we're aware, we're on World Line D.
C.
No, because he said he went to World Line D.
Yeah, last one was World Line D.
No, C.
Quite frankly, at
Oh,
that
yeah.
point, I'm happy to
D.
not be on A.
Yeah.
Pretty
or
much, yeah.
even B.
Well, all right. Quick thing on that, and I don't want to spill over on time.
Yeah.
Is it just simply a case of A is just wherever you as the person start, or is it
Yes.
specific assigned? Or
It's
basically
where you start.
For us four,
this is A.
this is our baseline.
This
This
is
would
our
be
baseline.
A.
Okay.
If you were born in that timeline and you had not shifted timelines,
That is your
that
time.
is your A.
Okay.
That is
Now,
your
when
A.
when and more likely we do invent time travel and we shift into a different world line, if the world line theory is correct, which I think it is, then that would be our B, our C, our D.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another-
It'd just be 2% ish. If we get the same
It's
type of time
kinda-
machine they had, it would be 2% difference.
It's honestly, it's really cool to think too. It's like the way with time travel. If this is actually how it would work, you could be like, you know what? I want to live in the 70s and a better.
Yeah, John
version.
Titor has said himself that he'd let you live in 75. So
Basically,
Just drop you
it just sounds like, well, you better blend in, otherwise they're gonna think you're crazy.
Go grab your 70s clothes and your 70s
you just better
car.
hope it's not the Wolfenstein timeline where the Nazis took over and actually won World War II.
I think that'd be more than a 2%.
I think that'd be a
Divergence.
lot more.
A
than
little bit.
It'd be like
2%.
a 10%.
John, let's shift back a couple percent away from this.
I changed my mind.
John Titor grabs dual wielding shotguns.
This is perfect.
You may change your mind, but I love this.
There's actually another time theory revolving around black holes where instead it states basically in order to go back in time further, you can go forward as much as you want, but you can only go back for as long as the black hole has been created. So if we made a black hole today, we can go like 100 years ahead, but we
you
can only
can't
go
go-
back to today. We can't
Yeah.
go behind today.
Which makes sense with that.
That's interesting.
With that too,
Yeah.
because that again is the checkpoint.
Right,
Kind
that's
of.
the anchor point in reality.
The only
Yeah.
way you'd be able to go further is if you found one of those black holes that have been alive for an infinite amount of years.
So
which
that,
would mean we'd have to have the technology to literally capture a black hole.
Yeah.
so
A
that
huge
that
one.
brings the question of where John said they couldn't go forward anymore at a certain point. Does that just mean maybe that specific tech no longer exists at some point? Is it just the whole like idea of time travel tech either ceases to exist or completely shifts to something we can't even
I
comprehend?
believe he said in a message that when they've went there, it was just like there was nothing.
Yeah, there was,
Well, he says
they
like
hit
a
a brick
wall.
wall.
They couldn't go past
He-
that.
in a different one, he said like when we'd go there, there was just nothing.
Yeah.
Like it was a
I mean,
brick wall.
you're
Like
pla-
there's nothing.
You're playing with black holes that could just eat everything. But that's way in the future, and I'll be long dead before that point.
That's 2056, I do believe.
2456.
2456. Okay.
It's a couple hundred years in the future.
Also, something I forgot to say earlier is he's also said that he can only jump 60 years at a time.
Right, and you
Back.
have to do like a new point. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't go, I'm going to go straight 2,000 years ago.
You're going to want to keep a big journal and record every single little thing that
Yeah.
happens.
Well, it's even harder because every single time you land, you create a new line.
Well, that's why you'd have to record everything that would happen so you
Yeah.
can line up those things.
exactly.
See, and that also brings another thing. If he hit a wall at that point, maybe that is just a thing of just where that timeline just ceases because a new one is being
That
He
is a
did also
possibility.
say that other timelines that he would go to and other time travelers would go to, the same wall appeared on that line.
Okay.
Like all the lines that they've been on and tried to go forward, the same thing happened.
Okay.
It's like all the lines just end there.
My doomsday machine works.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna have to talk to you about that.
About that, Ramen Cat, you can't be blowing up worlds.
No, whole galaxies.
No.
Oh, no.
Was that the
come
one I gave to
on.
the Chinese government for a few million yen?
No, that was the other one.
Okay.
That was
That was the
defunct
one with the defunct fuse.
Okay.
They'll blow up.
I knew there was an A and B. I just sold B.
Pyrolis in your garage. Which one should I make money with?
I mean, there was
There
no
was a clear
differential.
label on both Pyrolis. Sell this one to Chinese government.
I'm
this
illiterate.
one.
You can't blame me.
He is. You should see the other podcast. It's usually just mad ramblings and lots of grunting, like cavemen.
I don't even know how I know half of the stuff I do.
It's just there.
It's just the years of experience that I've been living.
All right, and with that, I think we're gonna wrap it up. So,
We went a little over.
yeah, we always
Just a
go a
wee
little
bit.
bit over. As long as we don't go too far over.
Let's go for
Like
another
into
hour.
2456.
Right, exactly. So,
Let's create a time machine and create and do the podcast through time.
That would be so sweet. We'd be like the top podcast. We'd beat Joe Rogan.
We probably would.
Unless
Joe Rogan would just invent a new reality.
he'd just be like, well, we're going to do that too. But better.
Builds his time machine in his Tesla.
Wait a minute.
And he just kicks boxes it to activate it.
Roundhouse.
While shooting an elk.
Through time.
Through time.
This pioneer's getting ready to get his dinner, just 50 cal round his church to reality. It's the elk.
And then he does a stand-up comedian show for Thanksgiving dinner at the original Thanksgiving.
Well, dinner's pre-cooked, I guess.
All right, so yeah. Well, we hope that you enjoyed this episode. Hope that you learned something and totally weren't just like ripping out your hair with all the random time travel stuff we were talking about.
Send us your research papers.
Yeah. And with that, we're going to wrap it up. And yeah, thank you very much for listening. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, then, I don't know, just share it with a friend. Tell your family. Tell your state representatives.
Rip it onto a CD and sell it out of the back of your van.
Yes, do that. And then I'll tell you my Venmo account password so you can give me the money.
Wait. You don't want to give them your password. That'd be bad.
Oh, yeah.
Can you give us your password, also social security card, and your credit card?
Sure.
All
Yay!
right,
I'll tell you that afterwards. So.
Oh, not an error?
No, not on there.
Oh.
Darn it.
Anyways,
But you can edit this out.
No, I can't. I'm doing this in the future.
You can still edit it out and send
Okay,
it to
I'm
the
going to be
past.
quiet now.
You know what? Shush. Anyways. Yeah, so if you do like this, you can leave a comment, a like, and you can also subscribe on YouTube. That's all appreciated. As well as you can subscribe on any of the podcasting platforms such as YouTube. Not YouTube. I already said YouTube. Spotify, Google Podcast, iTunes, and anything like that. You can also leave a review on iTunes or Podchaser for us. That's also much appreciated. If you want to follow the podcast, you can follow us on Behind You Pod on Twitter. And yeah, with that, that's everything for the podcast. Ramen Cat, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter at RamenCat13, where
Awesome.
I do nothing because I don't have time.
Right. Pyrolis, where can they find you?
Pyrolis 2.
Nice.
Who's one?
Yeah.
I'm going to find them and beat
Do
them up.
we need to time travel to the point of when Twitter started so you can be Pyrolis 1?
That's what I'm planning.
Hey,
No,
if you think Pyrolis 2 is bad, I'm Sir Boom 9. I have 8 other people to fight.
Sir Boom is kind of like not the most creative thing, as we mentioned before.
Yes, I know that.
Pyrolis, on the other hand. Why?
I
How?
don't know.
Because the first Pyrolis, I'm pretty sure, is a DeviantArt artist who draws My Little Pony.
All right, I might be okay with that.
What?
I am not okay with that. I was
Whoa.
Where
lying.
can they find you?
Yeah.
On the podcast Twitter.
Yes. He is the unofficial moderator, so he might ban you.
Yeah.
Just for saying
Wait,
hi.
we can do that?
Yeah, you can
Oh no,
block
you just
people
gave
on
him
Twitter.
power.
But that's not banning. That's just blocking.
You can report them.
You're giving him too much power.
I am.
Just say hi to him. He's a lonely wolf.
As long as you show him pickle emojis on the Twitter, he'll be happy.
Yes. And I'll try
likes
to
pickles.
remember to post the documentaries that I forgot to.
That would be great. Someday, any day. Right
It's just
now.
that life got crazy the past couple weeks.
Okay, sure. I'm not believing you, but whatever.
Where can they find you then?
They can find me on Twitter at SirBoom9, as well as they can find me and Pyrolis on another podcast called Baka-Talk.
There's another. Oh yeah, there's another one. Yeah.
Sorry to inform you this, but we're taking him.
What?
What?
You're
Yeah.
fired.
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
I've trained him too well. My
Yeah.
apprentice, I must kill you now.
wait a minute.
We're taking over now, John.
Hold on. Who's John? Titor?
Anyways, Baka-Talk is all about anime, manga, and just random stuff we find on the internet. So we have fun with another co-host of ours named Wheeze. Yeah, I guess a quick shout out. He's a really cool YouTuber as well. So
His full name is Cornelius Bivouac Wheeze.
heck yeah.
And actually, she's been completely quiet. There's a Kai lurking around the sound equipment.
Yeah. You want to say hi really quick?
Don't chew on the sound cords this time.
Hi.
You can listen to her talk with us, Pyrolis, on the podcast Behind the Podcast, which will be on YouTube soon after this one.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, that has been everything. We appreciate you listening, and we'll see you all later.
Have a good
See
night,
ya.
everyone.
Jamia.
And remember, look behind you because you never know what you see.
It's a door. We're sending Alex Jones to 1776, right?